I'm Chef Lynn. Welcome to the Flavor Secrets Kitchen. My guest today is the amazing Aaron Lindauer, who's a very good cook in his own right. Welcome, Aaron.
Nice to be here.
It's really cold outside, so today we're making comfort food. The dish we've got for you today is called the Tourtiere. Please pardon my French. It means a French-Canadian meat pie. So basically what we'll do here is Aaron will make the filling so you can see it from start to finish, and I'm going to show you how to make the crust. So first thing we do, of course, is heat up the pan. We're going to add a little bit of olive oil here to get things started. And then Aaron, would you just start sauteing that onion? This is a half an onion chopped up, and I left this other half here to show you how big it is, because this is really a huge onion. So if you have a small onion, just use two of them, two small onions. Okay, well, to saute this, Aaron's going to use this spatula that is heat resistant. As you can see, it looks like it isn't totally heat resistant because somebody laid it on a burner and it's a little messed up here. But anyway, spatulas are really nice for sauteing, and the heat resistant ones are fine to use in a hot pan. As you can see here, you can't actually lay it down in the pan, but it's fine for sauteing. And you can find those if you're interested at jvprints.com. They're good up to 400 degrees. So Aaron's basically just sauteing a half of a very large yellow onion in the frying pan, and as soon as that onion is soft, he'll add this pork over here. This is 1.5 pounds of pork, and what I like to use is pork sausage. I think this one happens to be Tennessee Pride. I like all kinds of different sausages. Just use any kind that you like that has a taste that you like. For me, the mixture of 2 to 1, mild to hot, works. And the sausages are also spiced a little bit, so that helps. You don't have to add too many other spices. Actually, this dish has some very interesting spices in it, though, that you'll see later on. Okay, so he's sauteing this until it's soft, and then he'll add the pork, and we're going to just add a little sprinkle of garlic powder also. You can put fresh garlic in here if you want to, but it doesn't set well with me, so although I really like the taste of garlic, I can't tolerate it, so I use powder most of the time when I'm cooking. Okay, so we don't need that anymore. I'll just set that back here. And let's start the crust while he's getting that all fried up. What I have here is 1.5 cups of AP flour, or all-purpose flour, as we've talked about many times before. And I've got 1/3 cup of grated white cheddar cheese. And I'm going to put that right in the flour so that it mixes up really well before I put anything else in. Then I have 1/2 cup of butter here. As you can see, it's 1 stick. And this is the important part. This butter is really cold. I just took it out of the fridge just seconds before you came. So what I want to do is cut this into little pieces, just like you would if you were making muffins or some kind of a shortbread and trying to mix it into the flour. So I'm just using a regular knife here. It doesn't have to be sharp or any special kind of knife. And just chop it up into little pieces. How are those onions?
Working.
So far so good, huh? Alright, so we'll just chop this up into little pieces. And then what I want to do is to mix this together with my hands. And you'll notice that as I'm doing this, I'm kind of pressing out like this and pressing the butter into the flour. This is a little boring. It takes a few minutes to do. So now it's time for your song and dance. No singing, no dancing. Okay, we're just stirring. All right, that looks pretty good. Those are getting soft. They look like they glisten, kind of glisten all over, and we're good to go with the pork. Go ahead and put it in there, all of it at once, and just start kind of chopping it up with the spatula. You want that to look like loose burger or something. You want it to be really, really small. All right, so you can see I'm still using that same motion, pushing the butter into the flour. Oops, and I wanted to put just a pinch of salt in here, and now my hands are all covered. So can you put just a pinch of salt in here? Right here in this white container. It's a pretty small pinch. How about a bigger pinch?
Good.
Yeah, that's good. All right, we want just a little bit of salt in there. And notice that sitting over here, I have some really cold water. In fact, it has ice in it. It's really important that your ingredients are all quite cold when you're making this pie crust. I'm kind of afraid to say this, but it's an absolutely no-fail pie crust. Now, just because I said that, it won't work, but I've never had anything happen to it. All right, so I want these to be small enough to be like the size of peas. How are you doing there? You can always add a little more oil if you need to, but it doesn't look like you need to. Just keep chopping that up. Chop, chop, chop. All right. This is looking now really small. Now what I want to do is make a well in the center. Get just a little bit more. Takes a little while to do that. And then I'm going to put a 1/4 cup of water inside here. Now it's very dry in the house right now because it's winter time, so it will probably need more than a 1/4 cup of water, but I'll put almost all of it actually to start with, and then start mixing this up. And actually just kind of squeezing it together. And I can already see that I'll need that whole 1/4 cup of water, so I'll go ahead and put it in. And I may even need a little bit more. Now if you don't have white cheddar, it's fine, you can use orange cheddar or whatever you want, but I just like to use white cheddar because it doesn't show much in the crust. And people will taste it and they'll say, wow, this crust is good, but they won't really be able to identify that it's cheese in there. It does add a ton of flavor. So you can see here that I'm squeezing this together and it's not all coming. So I can tell that I need just a little bit more water. I don't want to add too much because if you get too much, you're done. But if you don't have enough, that's a problem too. So we're just going to put it in a little bit at a time. Actually, I'm just dipping my fingers to get just a little bit more moisture. And then I want to press this against the bowl in order to get it to come together. I want just a little bit more water so it comes together in a ball. And at this point I can take it out and put it on my counter. Okay, now I'm going to knead it a little bit more, just kind of see if it needs a little more water. You can see it's not sticking to the counter and it's not sticking to my hands, so it should be good. Now normally I would cover this with plastic and let it rest in the refrigerator for 15 or 20 minutes, but we don't have that much time today. So now I can feel this, so I'm going to just go ahead and make the crust. So technically you can do it either way. Okay, now it feels really nice, it's firm, but the glutens have sort of seized up because I've been working them, the glutens in the flour. So I really need to let this rest just for a minute or two so that it'll roll out nicely. And as I said, 15 or 20 minutes is a lot better. So how are we doing with our pork over there?
It's perfect.
Perfect, okay. We can turn this up. All right, the next thing that Aaron will do as soon as the pork is finished is add a chopped large tomato, which is sitting over there in the little dish, and then he'll add some tomato paste. Now I'm going to say you probably need a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of tomato paste. What I do is usually just kind of squeeze some in, stir it around, see if I like the looks of it. And if I'd like for it to be a little more tomatoey, then I'll add more. Okay, now I've got a pie plate here for my crust. And notice that I'm not putting any grease or Pam or anything in it. This dough is fatty enough without it, so we don't have to worry about that. This flour is just a little bit extra in case I need it in order to roll it out. So now I'm going to take a little bit more than half of my dough and use that for the bottom crust. The bottom crust needs to be a little bit thicker, so I'm going to take just a little bit more and leave that much for the top. Yep. Okay, so this is a little sticky, so I'll put a little bit of flour down. I'll put a little bit of flour on my rolling pin and just start rolling it out. See how beautifully this reacts? I love this dough recipe. Okay, now you should be able to pick it up, move your flour that way, and then just continue to roll it out. If you have a rolling pin like this that has ball bearings in it, by the way, don't put it in the water. You need to just wash it off and clean it off with a sponge or your dish towel. But don't immerse it in the water or the ball bearings will rust and you'll ruin it. Okay, now see how I'm just kind of always rolling back and forth? And I'm turning my dough so that I can always do that. It's coming out beautifully. I don't want to get a lot of flour on the top of it, but I can put a little bit on the rolling pin in order to keep it going. Okay, there. Now what I want to do is get this big enough so that the edges will hang over the side of the bowl. So I'm trying to keep it in a circle and just continue to roll it. Whoa, that's a hot pan. Okay, go ahead. It's okay if you speak, by the way. Do you speak?
No.
All right, it's not quite big enough.
Tomatoes?
Tomatoes are good. Wow, this is great to have a sous chef. Or am I the sous chef? We didn't talk about that. All right, so it looks to me like this is going to almost fit. I just want to make it just a tiny little bit bigger. Then I'll fold it back in half, set my pie plate here, and bring it over easily onto the pie plate. As I said, I want the edges to hang over, so that's why I made it that size. And I have a little piece right here that doesn't hang over, and this one hangs over too much, so I'll just cut that off and put it here. This is on the bottom crust, so it doesn't really matter. That'll cook together just fine. Okay, so I want to have just a little bit of overhang all the way around, so I'll cut this off with my kitchen shears so it just hangs over. We don't want to have too much crust either and then not have a good crust to meat ratio. Now, most cold climates have their dish that's similar to this. In Michigan, we have what's called the pastry, and that's basically a meat pie, but it's single serving. So it's kind of the same thing. Okay, the next thing I need to do is paint this bottom crust with mustard. And what that does is it gives it a little bit of taste, but it also sets up a vapor barrier so that the bottom crust won't get too soggy. Another trick for cooking it too is if you have a pizza stone and you preheat your oven with the pizza stone in it, and then set this right on the pizza stone, you're simulating a baker's oven, and the bottom crust will cook through quicker. Now, of course, I forgot to bring the mustard out, so I'll be right back. So what I'm using is a gray Poupon mustard. You can use different kinds of mustards if you like, but the Poupon gives kind of a nice little bite, so I really like to use it. You need probably about a tablespoon, so we'll put the tablespoon in there. And then this is a pastry brush. All I'm going to do is brush the crust with it in anticipation of putting the filling in. All right, and that's all. How's that filling coming?
Good, I put about half
Okay, good.
of the paste in so far.
Okay, that looks good to me. About half of the paste, so that's probably a third of a cup of tomato paste, I'd say, that he put in there. And you can even keep chopping that pork up so it's even smaller. Okay, so we've got the tomatoes. We've got one large tomato and about a half a cup of tomato paste. And go ahead and try and get that tomato paste all through the whole thing. And now you want to put in a half a cup of breadcrumbs. Now you can use flavored breadcrumbs for this if you want to, but I like to use panko. Panko is a Japanese breadcrumb. Can you reach that over there? You can maybe show the bag. And what the purpose of these is to absorb the liquid that's in the pan, because we don't want to have a real soupy meat pie. We want it to be solid and consistent.
We're going in?
So they're going in. Go ahead. Okay, good job. And as I said, that will help to absorb the liquid that's already in there. If there isn't any liquid, you can actually add a little bit of water or something like that if you want to. Now it's time to put in our special spices. What we're putting in is something that you'll find in a lot of Argentinian dishes with meat, but not so much in the United States, and it's a teaspoon of cinnamon. So we're going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon. We're going to add a half a teaspoon of savory, ground summer savory. Can I get a teaspoon in there? No, so I'll use this quarter teaspoon twice. So there's a half a teaspoon of summer savory. Then we're adding a half a teaspoon of ground cloves. You're going to think we're making cookies here. And a half a teaspoon of celery seed. Actually, yeah, half a teaspoon of each I think is fine. Okay, now that's all the ingredients for the meat pie. And we've got our crust ready, so the next thing to do is to let this cool. Now we don't have time for it to cool, so I've got to turn the fire off and we're going to put this in here hot. But it can cool for just a second while I do the upper crust. Okay, so as I said, we have just a little bit less than half of the upper crust. And see how much nicer this is handling now that it has set out for a little while? Because the glutens have had a chance to relax. So I'm doing this a little fast today. You might want to take a little bit more time, especially if you're not used to working with a pie crust. And let it rest. See how much nicer it is? Just from resting, what was that? Probably not even 5 minutes. I want to always be able to pick this dough up. And again, I'm trying to keep it in a circle. I'm moving it around and just pushing it out in a circle. I want it to be as big as the pie plate, so I can bring my pie plate over here to check. It's looking pretty good. It wants to go with me here, so you have to just kind of do it slowly and carefully. Isn't this a beautiful pie crust? It's like as easy as pie. All right. Doesn't matter if it does that. Let's check it one more time just to make sure it's big enough. And now you can just pile that meat right inside the pie.
Scoop it in.
Just scoop it in. Now don't forget to cool this before you do this. Do as I say, not as I do. And then try and just kind of flatten it out so it's all even over the pie, all over the pie. It'll be all right because we're putting this pie right in the oven. Now once you have your pie completed, you got it all there, can you just kind of smash it down so it's all even? Hey, good job. All right, now we want to do the same thing as we did before and take it half that way and then the rest of the way over, and you can even kind of pull on it like this to pull it over the edges. I want to cut it again, just kind of around here, just to make sure that it's even all the way around. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is see the bottom crust underneath here? What I'm going to do is fold the top crust over the bottom crust and then lightly press it down on the pie plate. Find that bottom crust underneath there, press it down, and this is what seals the pie together. You ever made a meat pie before, Aaron?
Never. Looks pretty good.
I think it looks pretty easy, doesn't it? Okay, so now we've got a piece of cake. No, it's a pie. All right, now what I'm going to do is take my fingers like this and pinch. Now I can see a little bit of moisture here. That's because we put our filling in there hot, and we really shouldn't do that. So we need to get this in the oven right away. So what I'm going to do is, Aaron, could you grab the egg wash in the refrigerator? I left that in the refrigerator too. Should have gotten it when I went and got the mustard, but I wasn't thinking ahead. There you go, right, it's in that little bag. For the egg wash, I've got 1 whole egg and 2 yolks, and then I just poured in just a little bit of cream. You have to make sure with the egg wash that you wash it very lightly and everywhere, because everywhere you brush the egg white, it'll be a nice golden brown, and everywhere you don't, it won't. Okay, again, we've got this hot filling in here, so I'm going to have to work quickly. But I want to have the egg wash all over the whole thing. And then to cut vents in the pie. When I cut vents, I usually do them where I'll end up cutting the pie anyway. So I'll do one here and then one straight across. And then I usually cut this into 6 pieces, so I just imagine where my pieces are. And then cut straight across from those, so I have 6 pieces. And there's your finished pie. It now goes in the oven, at a preheated oven at 350 degrees, and it will take this pie about 45 minutes to cook. We just happen to have a finished one over here for you to take a look at. Here's what it looks like when it's finished. So there's before and there's after. Once you have this pie this far without the vents cut and without the egg wash, then you can put it in a container and freeze it for up to 6 months. Or you can bake it, you can go this far and bake it, and then also you can freeze it for up to 6 months. Just make sure it's in an airtight container. So there we are, our tourtiere, or our French Canadian meat pie. Hope you'll give it a try at home. I'm Chef Lynn, and this is the Flavor Secrets Kitchen. Enjoy.